Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Crown of Bitter Thorn by L Moody, narrated by Davies. Chapter 1. When her life flashed before her eyes, Elora wanted to forget it all. The balance shard that had the power to turn her into a fae shattered into tiny pieces inside her heart. Its power spread all through her body. All reality ceased to exist as memories replayed in her mind. Along with each memory came a flood of the emotions associated with it. If everything positive had been heightened, the experience might not have been so bad. Instead, the negative emotions were heightened far worse than she had ever borne during her lifetime. Mistakes, fear, frustration, grief. All of them cluttered her memories. They brought pain, anxiety, even heartache. Since her birth, not a day had passed that didn't hold at least a sliver of negativity, and too many of them held more than just slivers. Those moments hurt. They screamed and clawed, but they filled her, too. Filled her right up to the top of her head. At least she wasn't empty and alone. Reliving every emotion of her lifetime all at once brought more pain than she could bear. Letting go would have been too easy, too relieving. Her parents' deaths hurt most of all. The pain hurt, but it didn't come alone. It brought meaning. Each time a new negative moment sizzled in her mind, it almost left her stronger. Of course, the memories sliced and skewered her insides, but at least they had happened. At least she had lived. At least she had loved. When she'd plunged the balance shard deep into her chest, she knew the cost. She knew she might not survive. She'd never expected to find peace in the process. All that pain, all that heartache, it meant something. At some point in the process, swirling amid pain and change and memories, she found herself smiling. At least she had lived. While reliving the memories, her body seemed to float inside nothingness. She could not see, taste, hear, or smell. She could only feel. After what must have been days of this, only one thing struck her as odd. A sequence of emotions marched across her mind as potent as the others, but they had no memories attached. She felt wonder, adventure, and magic. As with all her positive emotions, those flitted past quickly, barely a spark. Then the negative emotions came. Fear, anger, and eagerness to escape. The feelings boiled inside her just like all the others, but the part of her mind containing those memories was blank, or maybe it was detached. As the nothingness fell away around her, those blank spots in her memory wriggled under her skin. Where had they come from? Now the sensation of floating began to be replaced with one of standing. It filled her, but her feet did not touch any surface. Gray mist closed in around her. She couldn't see, but maybe there was nothing to see. One foot lifted and fell in a step. Nothing about it felt like walking. It felt more like floating, and the air had caught her foot where it wanted it to stop. She took another step forward. The gray mist shifted into focus. It gained substance. A hazy light hung inside it, the exact same color as a dusky fairy night. Sparkles of every color burst all around. There was no up or down or inside or outside. There was just everything and nothing all at the same time. No rain fell, but cool, minuscule droplets danced across Elora's skin from the mist. The air tasted clean, but it sizzled, too. Echoes pranced across the space. Tinkling bells, trickling water, a light wind. The sounds came out so soft they could have been a dream. By the time she stepped again, a sweet scent drifted all around her. It smelled of wildflowers, or maybe wild berries. Perhaps it was both. With each new step, the space around her became more substantial. Her feet still didn't touch any kind of surface, but just ahead, she could see a path forming. Instead of dirt or rocks or even grass, the path seemed to be made of stars. Moving across it felt like stepping over popping bubbles. Fairies surrounded her. That much was clear, but not any location in particular. Maybe her imagination spun the idea, but it felt like she stood not just in Faerie, but inside Faerie. After that realization, the star path ahead diverged into two. She stood in a clearing just ahead of the fork and the starry road. She had a choice to make, a path to choose. One path had stars and a dusky light. It smelled sweet. The same cool mist surrounded it. The path would be good to her. It could bring happiness. But the other, sparkles showered the second path, bathing it in a rainbow of light. Its air crackled with energy, beckoning for her to choose it. The balance shard had created these two paths. To become Fae, she first had to sacrifice her mortal life. She had to say goodbye forever to the mortal life she might have had. She had to turn away from it. Take the other path. If the second path had only sparkles and sizzling energy, the choice wouldn't have been a choice at all. But of course, it had more to it than that. Thundering footsteps from a distance tore down the second path toward her. An enormous creature with green skin and yellow teeth growled as it swung a curved axe. A troll. The sight of it awakened the strange blank spot in her memory. It sparked like a light inside her, growing until a fight to the death with a troll didn't just seem like something she had to do now. It seemed like something she had already done before. She stumbled backward as the troll sliced its blade toward her. Hair raised on the back of her neck as she went to grab her trusty sword. It wasn't there. Why would it be? She clearly existed in some dreamlike state while the balance shard worked through her. A gurgling growl that had more spit than noise erupted from the troll's throat. The creature swung its axe a second time. Ducking into a roll, she got away just in time. A lock of her hair didn't have the same luck. The blade sliced through it, causing several pieces to float away into nothingness. How could she choose the magical path when a troll kept her from it? Without a weapon, she'd never have a chance against the creature. Her heartbeat skittered as she attempted to find her feet again. Instead, she tripped over the strange nothingness. Without meaning to, she took a few steps down the first path, the one with no magic. She didn't choose the path yet, but her feet certainly stood completely on that path and not the other. It might have passed her notice completely, except the troll swung its blade toward her again. The swing came too fast to give her time to duck. Her first sight of the blade was only a moment before it split her head in two. Except it didn't. Just before the blade could touch her, it stopped midair, as if some unforeseen force held it in place. The troll let out another gurgling growl and pulled its arm back to swing its blade again. The creature's movements came without any restriction until the axe met the same exact spot as before. Once again, the weapon stopped just short of reaching her head. She glanced down. The path must have done it. She stood on the side that represented her mortal life, which acted as a barrier against the axe. When the troll attempted to use a fist on her instead, the path stopped that too. Danger could not get to her if she chose the mortal realm. Her eyes flitted over to the magical path. But could she give up on the magic of Faerie just because it had a little danger attached to it? Closing her eyes, she reached deep within herself to a place that possibly only existed in her dreams. Faerie had magic. Maybe that magic had limitations, but she refused to accept them. She refused to be bound by anything other than her own dreams. The air around her buzzed. It recognized her plea, but it fought against her, too. She fought back, unwilling to be shackled by any limitations. Soon, pops and sputters tickled the air. Her resolve deepened. By the time she opened her eyes again, a leather-wrapped hilt appeared in her hands. She had summoned her sword, or perhaps she had conjured it. Either way, it looked and felt exactly like the sword she had faithfully used for years. The distinction didn't matter because now she had a weapon. Staying light on her feet, she darted away from the path representing her mortal life. The troll swiped its weapon toward her, but her speed outmatched the lumbering creature. It swung the axe at her several times. She always remained just one step ahead of it. She jabbed and cut her own sword through the air, but it was mostly for show, a distraction. The two of them pranced and hopped around each other. They moved as if in a dance, except only she knew how it would end. The fateful move came just moments later. Arching its arms high, the troll prepared to bring its axe down on her head. Little did it know, that action would be its undoing. The moment its arms went up, her sword plunged. She jabbed it in the troll's one weak spot. Her blade sank deep into the skin just under the creature's arm. Ice-cold blood trickled down her blade and onto her hands. When she yanked her sword out of the troll's body, the troll fell away into nothingness. Even its blood vanished as she turned toward the magical path once again. Whatever danger magic brought, she'd defeat it. Just like she'd defeated the troll. Only a few steps down the magical path, everything changed again. Light streamed in through the duskiness while a breeze fluttered through her hair. The far-off sound of tinkling bells rang closer than before. A voice entered the space. It didn't come from any one place in particular. It simply came from everywhere. The voice was calm, peaceful, assured. "You are a puzzle, young one. Faerie faces a conflict so great it affects all 6 of its courts. In all the possible outcomes of this conflict, you were never even a player. And yet, here you are." Elora craned her neck, trying to find the source of the voice. It sounded more female than male, but perhaps it was neither. "Who are you?" "Not who." Raising an eyebrow, Elora shifted on her feet. "Then what are you?" "You already know." Swallowing, Elora glanced upward. "Faerie itself?" The voice went on, neither acknowledging nor denying her observation, but she still knew it to be true. "Faerie is at a crossroads. Prince Brannick still has a chance to regain his rightful place as High King, but he cannot do it on his own. Sometimes help comes from the strangest of places." Glancing down, Elora trailed a thumb over her leather hilt. "You mean like me? Because I am a mere mortal." "You will not be mortal for long. You will soon have the power needed to right the wrongs of the past." Discomfort twisted in Elora's gut. "Do you mean saving Faerie is my destiny or something?" She gave a hard swallow. "Am I the only one who can do it?" Something like a laugh filled the space around her. The sparkles in the air gave off greater bursts. The mist grew thicker. "Of course you are not the only one who can save Faerie. You make it your destiny only because you will not stop until it is done. You alone control your fate." Before Elora could speak again, the sparkles in the air glowed brighter. They drifted together until all of them combined right in front of her. They pulsed with energy. Every color glowed from them, but some colors became less concentrated. Though all colors moved through the clump, it mostly glowed with a purple hue. Reaching out, her fingers stopped just short of touching the sparkles. "Is this my magic?" The prince said when a mortal becomes a fae, that Faerie itself provides the magic. "You are correct. It has been arranged to match your essence." Elora's eyes widened. She kept her hand elevated, nearly brushing the magic. She continued to reach, but kept her fingers just shy of touching the magic. Something about it felt familiar, welcoming. It reminded her of when she got her wings. The magic felt like something that had always been a part of her. She just hadn't known it yet. "What kind of magic will I get? King Huron had magic in bargains. Prince Brannick has magic in essence." Her shoulders nearly shuddered as she remembered the magic of another fae. Ansel had magic in blood, and he had used it to find out she was the daughter of Theobald. Brushing that thought to the side, she stared into the cluster of sparkles. "What magic will I have?" "That is for you to discover." The air thickened around her. Magic pulsed, burst. In a shower, it enveloped her. Every pore in her skin stretched and tingled, her senses sharpened. Suddenly she could hear, see, and feel everything 100 times greater than she had before. Her hair turned silky, growing a little longer, too. Her ears prickled as they came to points. Letting out a breath, her entire body tensed. It relaxed a moment later. The change came quickly, but it washed over her slowly, sinking in deeper with each breath. Now, she was Fae. Rays pierced the gray mist until nothing but a bright light flooded the space. All around her, the light glowed and shined. The voice spoke again, fading away more with each word. "You are at the center of the crossroads now. If you had never come to Faerie, another Fae would stand in your place. But you are here now. You have earned your place. Faerie is molding its history around you." Chapter 2. Light folded into the creases of Elora's eyes. The nothingness faded away while substance formed all around her. At some point, her eyes had fluttered closed. The grip on her sword remained steadfast as her body lost the sensation of standing. Now, she was clearly lying on a bed with a plush blanket covering her limbs. The sense of crisp rain and a lush, mossy forest drifted around her. She could almost taste the stone walls that formed her bedroom inside Bitter Thorn Castle. After noticing the bed, she heard a delicate melody being plucked across harp strings. She didn't recognize the song, but still appreciated its beauty. Even in her half-awake state, the complexity of the song was obvious. Only one person in her life could create such music. Her mother. The thought spun in her mind while her chest tightened. But her mother was dead. Though that truth still stung her heart, at least she had finally accepted it. But if the music didn't come from her mother... At last, Elora's eyelids snapped open. "Grace!" She sat up with a start, shooting her eyes toward the corner of the room where the music originated. Her youngest sister dropped her hands from the harp and jerked her head toward Elora. Before either of them could speak, their middle sister jumped onto the bed next to Elora. Chloe's blonde hair practically glowed under the light of the floating sprites up above. "You're awake!" Her voice came out breathless. She pressed the back of her hand to Elora's forehead. "Your fever finally broke yesterday, but then you still didn't wake." Her voice dropped. "We were worried." Grace had been moving across the mossy floor with tentative steps, but once her sister finished speaking, she jumped onto the bed to sit on Elora's other side. Feeling her chin tremble, Elora pulled her sisters into a tight hug. "How did you get here? To Faerie?" The two sisters snuggled in closer to their big sister. Soon, the three of them were nothing more than a bundle of arms and tears. "Prince Brannick brought us here." Grace used her whole palm to wipe away the copious tears on her cheeks. She brushed them away right into the red hair framing her face. Chloe gave a vigorous nod. "You had just barely left with the prince, and I was about to start copying one of my favorite poems from a book I had borrowed, but then the prince suddenly returned." Brushing a knuckle across her nose, Grace sniffed. "Someone knocked on the door first. Don't forget about that." "Yes." Chloe touched a hand to her collar. "Someone pounded on the door like the world might end if we didn't open it. And then Prince Brannick appeared and told us you were dying. We didn't believe him because you had just barely left only moments earlier." Dropping her head on her older sister's shoulder, Grace gave the faintest shudder. "That's when the man at the door started shouting." Now Chloe shuddered. "I didn't like the sound of his voice, but the prince hated it even more. His whole body went stiff, and he turned toward the door like it was a snake. Then he conjured this swirly portal tunnel thing and told us to hurry and step through it." "The tunnel is called a door." Grace sat a little straighter, clearly assuming her older sister had never seen a fairy door before. Chloe dropped her voice to a whisper. "Maybe we shouldn't have been so trusting, but that voice at the door was scary, and you seemed to think the prince was okay, so we went with him. and then we found you here, dying, just like he said." A smile twitched at the corners of Elora's mouth as she pulled her sisters closer. "He actually brought you here. For me." Pulling herself away, Chloe brushed the hair away from her oldest sister's ear. "We saw your body glow and your ears got pointed. They told us you would change if you lived, but we didn't believe it." Grace touched the tip of Elora's other pointed ear, only to let out a breathy chuckle. "How does it feel to be Fae?" Elora sucked in a deep breath, perhaps deeper than she ever had. She could feel every particle in the room, taste every speck of dust, and smell like she had never smelled before. Letting out a slow breath, she finally released her sisters. "It feels magnificent." They pulled away from her, supporting her elbows as she tried to stand. Despite their fears, she got to her feet without any trouble. Her room had changed. The harp Quintus had made for her sat in the corner nearest to the door. A velvet-cushioned seat stood behind it, with a metal music stand at its side. A wooden desk sat next to it that hadn't been there before. Piles of parchment and open books scattered the top of the desk. Some papers even littered the nearby floor. 2 new beds had been added to the room, one at the foot of Elora's bed and one at the head. They lined one wall of the room. Clay vases with geometric designs painted on the front held big bundles of purple wildflowers. At the foot of one bed, there sat a wooden bowl of berries. A few dresses were strewn about the room. All along the ceiling, light purple ribbons were tied to the green vines that stretched over the stone walls. It gave off a much cozier feeling than it ever had when Elora had been alone there. Once on her feet, she reached for the hilt that rested in her belt. Just as she realized the belt was not the magically invisible one Brannick had given her, her sister drew in a sharp breath. "Your sword?" Chloe jumped from the bed. She poked the weapon on Elora's waist while her face scrunched up. "Kaya told us to keep it on the other side of the room by the bath. How did you get it?" With a shrug, Elora wrapped her fingers tighter around the hilt. "I summoned it." The 2 younger sisters glanced at each other with eyes narrowing. "How?" Grace finally asked. "I don't—" Elora shook her head while her insides tumbled with an energy she had never felt before. "I do not know." Chloe poked the sword again. "Doesn't the iron bother you?" Smiling, Elora rubbed a thumb over the hilt. "Not when I touch the leather instead of the metal." She bit her lip as she formed more words in her head. But were they true? As a fae, she wouldn't have the ability to lie anymore. Nodding to herself, she continued. "Anyway, the sword was with me when I changed. I think it has magic, just like I do now." The sword could be examined later. She had other things she wanted to check. Slipping her hand into one pocket, she felt for the light green crystal that contained Brannick's essence. It buzzed against her fingertips with the same energy it always did, but this time she felt it all the way to the center of her heart. Being Fae must have made the sensation stronger than ever. While her lips twitched with a smile, another thought struck her. How else had her body changed since becoming Fae? With only a thought, she pushed out her wings. They shimmered with a light purple hue as they burst from her back. Her 2 younger sisters gasped at the sight. Grace tried to tuck a strand of red hair back into her bun. "Do all Fae have wings?" "No." Elora sent her wings flapping. Remembering what she had learned from her sprite friend about flying, she urged her muscles to relax and simply enjoy the sensation of rising into the air. It didn't strain her muscles much when she lifted off the ground. She still only flew as high as the tree in her room before she had to lower herself back to the ground again. Being Fae had definitely improved her flying, but she would still need practice to go higher or to go great distances. By the time she reached the mossy stone floor, her sisters were looking at each other again. "We should send a message to Liren," Grace said in a lowered voice. Chloe responded with an eager nod. "She said she would tell us the news about Swiftsea once Elora awoke." Chloe pinched her bottom lip between 2 fingers. "We should send a message to Vesper, too." Grace's cheeks stretched wide with a smile. He can tell Elora about the plan to overthrow the Fairfrost Queen." A snort sputtered from Chloe's lips. "What plan? They have no plan except that they plan to make a plan." The words ate at Elora's insides. Others had been busy making plans, while she lay useless on a bed in her room. Reaching for both her sisters, she tipped her eyebrows up. "You will not believe this, but Vesper is our brother," Grace finished, her mouth scrunched to the side. "Well, our Fae brother. He told us how he married our great-great-great-great-grandmother, Cosette." Elora's hands fell away from her sister's arms. "How did you know?" A sad smile etched across Chloe's features. "You've been asleep for a long time. Weeks, probably." Those words ate at Elora's insides more completely than the others had. Her eyes turned downward. "There is no time in Faerie." Letting out a chuckle, Chloe shook her head. "You're talking like a Fae already." Her body spun as she surveyed the room. "Now, what can I use as an offering to send a message? The sprites just need something that is personal to me. Do you think those berries will work?" She gestured toward the bowl at the foot of her bed. "I was supposed to eat them, but I didn't because they're too sour. Do you think that counts as personal?" Grace shrugged as she glanced back toward the harp. After a few steps toward the bowl, Chloe spun around to face her older sister again. "You have to change your clothes first. That dress is so dark." With all the other things in the room to notice, Elora hadn't bothered to look at her own clothes. A black dress with delicate sleeves and a full skirt covered her. She recognized the green and silver geometric embroidery at the hem of the dress. Brannick had conjured this dress for her after Ansel had used blood to discover her identity. It was after she had accidentally killed the Fae that attacked her. She swallowed hard at the sight of it. "We put you in black because—" Grace trailed off as she clasped her hands behind her back. Her voice came out quieter when she finally spoke again. "We thought you would never wake up." They all held their breaths until Chloe finally pranced across the room, her blonde hair bouncing. "What about this dress?" She held up a simple lilac-colored dress that had been draped over the empty stone bath at the other end of the room. The pointed hem landed just below the knee with fringe coming off it. Intricate silver beading adorned the edges. Elora frowned at the dress before throwing a wistful glance around the room. "I had a skirt from Mother that—" "Oh, I cut that up and turned it into ribbons," Chloe said with a flippant hand wave. Jerking her head toward her sister, Elora blinked. "You what?" "Look!" Grace's young eyes turned alight as she gestured toward the purple ribbons tied to the vines across the ceiling. "Now Mother is all around us." Elora blinked again. It took another moment for the shock to wear off, and then another to appreciate the gesture. But soon, the knot in her stomach untied. She had clung to her mother's skirt while in Faerie. It was one of her only connections to the mortal realm. But now her sisters were here, and they wanted to remember their mother too. How better to do it than to be surrounded by pieces of her skirt? Gripping her sword hilt, Elora gave a gentle nod. "I like it." The crease between Chloe's eyebrows faded as she let out a sigh of relief. "Oh, good. Hurry and put this dress on, and then we can send a message to the others." The lilac fabric felt as thick as wool, but as luxurious as silk. Elora glanced toward her sisters. "You said Vesper wanted to make a plan to overthrow Queen Alessandra?" Chloe tipped her head to the side. "Well, she's High Queen Alessandra now, but yes." While fastening the belt for her sword around her waist, Elora glanced toward the door. "And what about Brannick? Have you seen him?" She managed to keep the next question inside, but even unspoken, they still bubbled in her throat. "Has he come to see me? Has he worried?" Their silence offered no reassurance. She turned to give a pointed glance toward her sisters. They looked at each other instead, sharing some memory Elora didn't share. Even as a Fae, she couldn't possibly decipher the meaning of the look. While unspoken words hung around them, the door to the room yawned open. With a hopeful flutter in her chest, Elora glanced toward it. Her heart dropped a little when she saw the emerald hair of Kaya. The dryad held a stone cup in her hands.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?